We rise, humbly hearted rise, won't be divided, rise, with spirit to guide us, rise, in hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here, and we rise. All of the children rise. Elders with wisdom rise. Ancestors surround us rise. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here, and we rise. Up from the wreckage, rise. With tears and with courage, rise. Fighting for life, we rise. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here, and we rise. Humbly hearted rise. Won't be divided, rise. Shalom, everyone. I hope you are all doing well this fine Shabbat, and you're ready to start with me. Get in prayer mode. Badger's here. She's ready to get into prayer mode. Can't quite see her under my book. I forgot to put my candles in the candlesticks before I went live. All right, there we go. Our blessings for the candle lighting is on page 120, and here we begin our service. Okay, chill. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat. Thank you, Kylie, on Badger's behalf for acknowledging her adorableness. She really likes to hear it. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. We turn now to page 138 and 139 to welcome in the Sabbath bride. With Lecha Dodi, we sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9, and when we reach verse 9, I invite you, if you are able, to rise and face whatever direction the Sabbath bride enters into your home or your heart for you. So perhaps that's your front door, perhaps it's the camera or your screen, or perhaps it's your beloved sitting next to you. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pene Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, Ishmi'anu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, v'shemo tiferet v'litila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'necha, ki hi mekor habracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshava tchila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, kiva orech kumi ori, uri, shir daberi, kevod Adonai alayich nigla. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam besimcha uvetzola, toch emunei am segula, boi chala. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. So we opened up our hearts and our spirits with Batya Levine's We Rise. We lit our Shabbat candles and welcomed in the Shabbat queen or bride. And now we are ready to segue into our Mariv service fully with the Chatzi Kash on page 144. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach yirteh ve'amlich malchuteh, B'chayechon u'vyomechon, U'chayei dechot Beit Yisrael, Bagala, U'vizman kariv, Ve'imeru amen, Yehesh me'Rabbah mevorach, Alamu ame amaya, yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnam, say, v'yitadar, v'yitale, v'yitalal, shemei dekudasha b'rechu, le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran le'ama, Ve'imeru amen. And now I call you all to worship with the Baruch Hu on page 146. I'm going to face east. I invite you to prepare yourselves as you need to feel called to worship. Yai rai 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 rai. Yai rai 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 rai. Yai rai 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 rai. Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed. We continue on page 149. This is an hour of change, and within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. On pages 152 and 153, we have the Shema, followed by the Ve'ahavta. I invite you to prepare yourselves for these words of Torah. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzadecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shcha b'beitecha uvlachtecha b'derech uvshachvacha uvkumecha uvshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha v'hisharecha למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים אלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם. We continue on page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot. That wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt. That there is a better place, a promised land. That the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness. That there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi chamocha nadar bakodesh, nora tehilot osef ele, nora tehilot osef ele, מלכותך ראו בניך בוקר יום לפני משה זה אלי ענו ויאמרו אדוני ימלוך עולם ועד מי כמוך בעלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש נורא תהילות תוסף אלה נורא תהילות תוסף אלה ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. Page 160. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom l'shalom V'hamidenu shomrenu l'chayim Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha Amen. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us the wrong from right, O Adonai. Amen. 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 V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביום השביעי שבת וינפש שבת וינפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. Thank you all for the woos in the chat. I could hear you singing with me. Beautiful. And now that we've expressed that extreme joy at Shabbat, we are ready for the central portion of our evening prayer. The Amidah begins on page 164 and continues over the next few pages. I invite you to prepare yourself for these blessings. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Eternal God, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'mevi Geula Livnei B'neihem, Le'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Abraham Mezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol atarav lehoshia, Morid hatal, Mechakel chaim bechesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofech holim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar, Micha mocha ba'al gevurot, Umido melech, Melech meimit umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman ata lahachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh Shemcha kadosh, U'kedoshim b'chol yom yehallelu Selah. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. We continue together on page 173. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day, and may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. You are with us in our prayer and our love and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. And there may we find you. There find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find a new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha levadcha b'yirah na'avod. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'el lehodot. Shalom Rav, Val Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Val Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech Adon, L'chol ha-shalom. B'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael, B'chol eit uv'chol sha'a, B'shlomecha. Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael amcha, Tasim leolam. Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael amcha, Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Baruch atah Adonai, hamivarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. You take a moment now for silent prayer. You might use the words on pages 180 and 181 or the meditations of your own heart. And hello to Naomi, and I know I missed Carl's hello earlier as well. Yehi leratzon imrefi vehegyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri Adonai tzuri Begali, Begali. May the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable to you, Adonai, our rock and redeemer. We turn our thoughts now to those who are ill or injured and in need of healing. As I share the names on my list, please feel free to add any names in the chat of those for whom you'd like to say Amisha Berach. Mary Kennedy, Rosalind Cantu, Mike Haug, Lori Perry, Nick Joliad, Ariel Batsluva, Rhoda Wessler, Marion Finkel, Skip, Kathy, and Jeffrey Brace, Rhonda Butler, Ricky Grant, Shoshana Bat-Abraham, Minna Dornfeld, Juliette Aregi, Leslie White, Ann Cohen, Charlotte Birch, Anita Ash, Joseph Matter, Daryl Swan, Steve McGrew, David Ray, David Harper, Doris Hudson Trujillo, Dylan Redman, Edward Asher, Susan Smith, Mary Lou Manzelli, Gary Sullivan, and Kevin Kossoff. Dan Dan Serminiello. Even if I said that name wrong, the Holy One knows where to send healing, that our thoughts are with your friend. The Misha Berach is on page 371. Sermonello. Thank you. The Misha Berach is on page 371, and we hold in our thoughts all those in need of healing of mind, body, and spirit. Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Le'imahotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha La'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Now we also count the Omer. Let me double check the page. 6 something. No, 570. There we go. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishbata v'tzivanu al sefrirat haomer hayom esrim v'shesh yom shahem shlosha shavuot I didn't write this down ahead of time. I'm doing the math in my head. V'chamisha yamim la'omer. Today is the 26th day, which is 3 weeks and 5 days of the Omer. You know me, that math was exceptionally hard. You shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. 3 times this phrase is repeated in the second half of this week's double parsha, Parashat Kedoshim. The double parsha is Parashat Acharei Kedoshim, and 3 times in the Kedoshim part, this phrase repeats. What does it mean to be holy because of or in the way that God is holy? This Shabbat, immediately following Earth Day, we find ourselves in the Kabbalistic time of splendor within persistence. This day of the 26th day of the Omer. This is Hod within Netzach. Poet Susan Windle tells us for this day, let us pause here in these perilous times. Notice where we find ourselves, alive and growing, reaching for life, rooted in eternity, diverse, manifold, single in purpose. There may be many things that feel perilous today, this week, this year, many justice issues that require our attention, and this parsha addresses many of them. We learn to pay fair and timely wages and to treat all people with equity, to be fair in business and equal in justice. We learn that the Torah is concerned with disability justice and accessibility for those with impairments. We learn that to profit off another's suffering or to stand idly by while others bleed is to deny that holiness God calls us to throughout the Parsha, and that it essentially snuffs out the divine spark within humanity. While this Parsha is less explicit on issues of environmental justice than it is about the interpersonal behavior, and it's less explicit than some other Torah portions are about the environment, it nonetheless gives us some hints that are useful this Earth Week. I'm deciding that it is. The whole week following Earth Day is Earth Week. So the first part of the Parsha, Acharei Mot, describes some of Judaism's more earth-based rituals relating to food, land, animals. In our post-temple period, our religious rituals have become almost entirely word-based. Praying, singing, learning. And in our post-industrial revolution period, so many of us have lost our connections to the land. We've lost our touch with where our food comes from. We've lost our value for animal life, including in its death, like the animals that we kill to eat still have value. And I'm not advocating for a return to animal sacrifice as a form of Jewish worship, but I do think that some more nature-based approaches to Judaism would benefit us all, particularly as climate crisis continues to loom. The Parsha also gives us some more specifics to dictate our relationships to food. There are some more specifics of kashrut given in this Parsha. Last week had a much more intensive list of kosher and non-kosher animals. But But we get a little bit more, about how you kill the animal, the don't eat the blood, that kind of stuff. As well as we are told not to pick the fruits or vegetables from newly planted trees for the first 3 years. In the 4th year, we are required, or the ancient Israelites were required to offer that produce as a sacrifice to God, and only to eat of it themselves in the 5th year. This gives that first 3 years, at least, gives the plant time to flourish and reseed. And even though we are not consuming the produce for 4 years, we must still tend to it, or our ancestors were required to tend to it and work the land for the sake of the future. Not everything in our relationship to nature merits instant gratification. This parsha also tells us not to pick our fields or vineyards bare, but to leave something for the poor to come and take with dignity. And this not only teaches us of the importance of social welfare and treating every person with equal dignity regardless of their class status, I also see it as a warning against environmental racism and food deserts. The poor, in order for this commandment to be useful, the poor must have access to those excess crops in the first place. They must live in proximity to the lush farmland in areas safe for crops in the first place. In our world today, communities of color have much greater difficulty accessing fresh produce, and on average are exposed to greater than 50% more pollution than their output accounts for. It is cheaper for industrial corporations to pollute communities of color than white communities. Often factory things that will put out a lot of pollution do so on the outskirts of communities of color, and if they break environmental rules, they're still fined considerably less than if they poisoned the water supply of a white neighborhood instead. Indigenous populations make up about 5% of the global population, but maintain nearly 80% of the remaining biodiversity on Earth. And to continue to put the burden of our environmental degradation onto marginalized communities is in opposition to this parsha's call to holiness. Colonialism, poor use of land, monoculture, industrial agriculture are all destroying our earth. We've already created so much damage to water, air, and soil, as well as to marginalized communities. The Torah tells us that if we defile the land, it will spew us out. In its textual and historical context, the Torah is there talking about spiritual defilement caused by illicit relationships and is referring specifically to the Holy Land. But I think the warning serves us well on any continent and with regard to any defilement. If we do not take care of the land, it will cease to provide its nutrients for us. One of the first commandments God gives human beings in the whole of the Torah is to care for the earth. We as humanity, in so many ways, are failing this most basic rule of life. And we as Jews in the developed world are often violating so many of the later commandments toward equality and justice in the ways that we do or do not address climate crisis and environmental destruction. This Shabbat, this Earth Week, let us take the advice of Interfaith Power and Light's Omer calendar for this day and be like a tree planted by the water, grounded in nature and connected with those you love. By reconnecting with nature in a loving and spiritually rejuvenating way, we better prepare ourselves to clean up our earth, to change course on our climate, and to better distribute the responsibility and consequences of the human effect on nature. May we embody the tree of life, rooted in the soil of love and justice and reaching our branches toward holiness and peace. And before I close, I want to share the Earth Day prayer I found on Ritual Well, adapted by Carl Sunshine from the lyrics for Asher Yatzar, which is a morning blessing, mostly, by Rabbi Josh Warshawski. I don't know his lyrics for Asher Yatzar, but here's the poem. Today for us is a new day on earth. Let us live it in awe and wonder. How everything works. Should the trees cease to grow? Should the sun cease to glow? Should our hearts cease to beat? We thank you again and again that our world is complete. I can think, I can breathe, I can hope, I can sneeze. I can laugh, I can cry, I can pray. For the wonder of each day, for the strength come what may, for the power to say, blessed are you, God, who has formed humanity with wisdom, commanded us to be stewards of the earth. Amen and Shabbat Shalom. We turn now toward our concluding prayers. The Mishaberach is on page 586. It is upon us to do this work of environmental justice. So I invite you to prepare yourself for this prayer. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, לגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. We turn our thoughts now to those who are no longer with us in body, but remain with us in spirit. As I read the names on my list, please feel free to add any names in the chat of those for whom you'd like to say a mourner's Kaddish. This week marks a yahrzeit for Ruth Weissman, Myra Wattenmaker, Sarah Marcus, Charles Levy, Eddie Cordezi Dawes, Jeffrey Hummel, Max Friedman, Carl Wattenmaker, Etta Cohen, and it is the first yahrzeit for Jason Brown. We are still within the year of mourning for Louis Petrozello, Gary Lines, John DiNicola, Arizona Breeding, Fran Warona, Rick Grossman, Aura Alva Leon, Sharon Buell, Mona Mandel, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Patricia Michaels, Joe Davis, Kathleen Schindler, Jamie Bellitz, Neil Savage, Ann O'Neill, Bruce Schechter, Bernard Strassner, Ruth Sherman, Louis Aaron Honig, Jean Sullivan, Carolyn Rubel Magrum, and David Nemero. Raymond Townsend and Pat Golino. The Mourner's Kaddish is on page 598. Mourners and those who wish to join them may rise. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, ve'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yom echon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'v'zman kariv, v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam u'almei almaya, Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, v'yimei d'kodesha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma, v'yimru, amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'yimru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. 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 Ve'imru, amen. And now is a good time to go grab your wine, your juice, your challah, your cookies, whatever you will be making kiddush and motzi over this evening, as I give some announcements. So first off, thank you hugely to everyone who did a drive-by at the synagogue last Saturday to drop off food for our food drive. I saw all of the bags collected on Sunday morning, and I'm thoroughly impressed. If you did not make it on last Saturday night, you have another chance on Sunday at 6 p.m. We will, Badger wants food now too. She's scratching at the closet door where we keep it. 6 p.m. on Sunday, we are doing a Pesach Sheni, Lag BaOmer rolled into one event. Pesach Sheni officially is actually Sunday night. Lag BaOmer is Thursday night during the following week, but we just thought we'll do it together. So we'll have some matzah and a little taste of a Seder together. We're not going to do a whole thing, but have an opportunity to feel like we have Passover together. This is our second chance. Now that the weather is nice, we can do it outside. We can do it in person. So that's going to be amazing. And then Lag BaOmer is always celebrated with fire, and it celebrates the end to a plague. So we'll have a little campfire. And I know we're not really at the end of this plague yet, but we are getting there, and it's going to feel really nice to get to be together in person. So do bring your masks when we're not eating the matzah. I do ask that you wear it, and when you are eating your matzah, make sure you keep your picnic blankets more than 6 feet apart, but it will be nice to be in community together. So that's Sunday at 6 p.m. at the synagogue. So again, an opportunity for you to bring more canned goods as well. Now I'm going to work backwards a little bit. Sunday at 1 on Zoom, we will have adult ed. We are continuing our midrash conversation. So last week I gave a little bit of background in history and theory, I guess, on how midrash works. So this week we're going to actually look at some classic midrash, probably ones you're already maybe a little bit familiar with, but we'll actually read them together. Even if you missed last week, you absolutely should still join this week. It's going to be fun, and we'll dive in a little bit about what's canon and what's not and how all that works. Sunday at 9:30 a.m. at the synagogue. Also, there is religious school. We are getting close to the end of our school year, but we will have at least 2 more classes, in-person, outdoor learning, Hebrew, the whole shebang. So 9:30 religious school. Tomorrow night, there's nothing special planned, but I will be streaming Havdalah on Facebook and Instagram at 8. It is staying light darker, so Havdalah moves back to 8. And then that's it for this weekend. So then this coming week, Monday, is our event with Ner Shalom is like one of many co-sponsoring on a Haberman Institute event about Jews of Virginia. Haberman is I'm pretty sure is a national Jewish organization, or maybe based out of DC, but they certainly don't primarily focus on Virginia, but this event is. So it should be very cool for us. So please do join. I put the registration link in a recent email to all of our eKibbutz subscribers, and somewhere on Facebook there is an event page for you to register at as well. So that's Monday at I think 7:30. So you'll want to join that. Wednesday at 10:30 is our book club meeting. We read Ivanhoe this month. Should be an interesting conversation. Thursday at noon is Torah study, and then next weekend we're back to Shabbat. So again, next Friday night, I'll be here streaming on YouTube and Facebook at 7:30. Okay, that's everything for now. Do keep your eyes and ears peeled for more information on Shavuot. It's only like 3 weeks away now. It will probably also be campfire based, but details will be coming. So just keep your eyes and ears out. Eyes and ears open. Don't take them out of your body. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen. L'chaim. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. B'teavon. And our closing song tonight will be Shalom Aleichem. There we go. Page 627. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Boachem Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu Nile Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Sedchem Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful, restful next 24 hours, and I'll see you for Havdalah.